Okay, I'm back here to sort of give you a little bit of background, a little bit of intro. Let me get going here. Okay, so I'd like to again welcome you to Biology 2402, the second half of the anatomy physiology block. My name is Jose Maldonado again, and as I start to lecture on the course, I do want to give you a little bit of feedback, a little bit of background, I should say, on what I'm bringing into the course, right? So 2402 is one of my favorite courses to teach. Again, I feel I have a lot of experience, a lot of practical knowledge on this course, right? So first of all, down here on the right side, running has always been a huge part of my life. Maybe not in the last couple of weeks, but prior. So I was very fortunate to be able to run track in college. So they called me, hey, come run really fast for us in circles, and we'll give you money to pay for your books and tuition. And like, cool, sounds good. So I ran track for Texas A&M University, and basically had a ability to continue learning how to train the body, to push the body to to a high degree of efficiency, of not just a level that it can be, but really pushing that envelope, pushing to maximal performance. And so a lot of knowledge I have with that kind of idea. Training, obviously when you're pushing the body like that, you have injuries, right? So the idea of physical therapy, occupational therapy, all these sort of things that help to get the body healthy again once it's been injured. So a lot of things dealing with physiology, not just on land, but also underwater, in high altitudes, a lot of training up there. And another sort of big idea that I've really had a lot of interest in is the idea of toxicology. So in my career, I've worked a lot with venomous creatures, scorpions, snakes, spiders, analyzing venom components, analyzing the actual animal in its ecological setting to see why it produces these toxic chemicals in the first place. So again, I'll be bringing in a lot of this into the course. Now, I know a lot of you are thinking of going into the nursing program. Most of the students that take this course are going to nursing. And I'll be very honest right up front. I'm not going to teach the course specifically to you nursing majors. You're going to get a lot of that nursing information as you go through your program, right? So I want to try to present all the topics that you're going to need, but in a kind of slightly different aspect, and maybe introduce you to certain topics that you hadn't thought of, or you weren't really knowledgeable that existed within the context of human anatomy and physiology. So again, I'm always interested in the extremes. So how far can we push the body in different ways, in the different systems as well? So again, I'm not gonna teach it in the way of, well, we need to keep this person within these guidelines or this range, for the average population. Yes, that's important, but I want to try to show you how the body can be pushed in different directions for good or for bad, and what kind of outcomes can happen because of that. So a little bit about me, and I'm curious to learn a little bit about you. So you're going to have two sort of assignments that have to be done by tomorrow. So one, I'm going to set up a discussion board on Blackboard, and I would like for you to share a little bit of information about yourselves. So what would you like to be when you grow up? What is something that you think is interesting about yourself? What focus, what type of field would you like to get into? Things like that, just to kind of introduce yourself to me and also to your fellow peers. So again, easy little assignment. Won't take long. But again, just to let me know that you're seeing these videos and you're navigating through the discussion boards. And I'm going to send out an email that just to make sure we're also being able to communicate via email like that. Yeah? All Alrighty. So as we get into the idea of anatomy and physiology, right? You should have already taken anatomy 1, and you should remember what anatomy means, right? So anatomy is basically all of the names. It's easy, right? So I can memorize your names, you can memorize my names, you can memorize your peers' names, but that doesn't necessarily mean you understand what that person is all about, right? So some people get really overconfident with the anatomy. Just because you have a photographic memory doesn't mean you're going to do well in the anatomy and physiology course, right? So anatomy is an important part, so we're speaking the same language, but we have to understand, what does that anatomical structure do? How does it interact to make the whole body function? So I could have you memorize this, right? I could have you memorize the motor. What is all these parts? What are they all, what are the names of all of these things? And you get your little flashcards, and I suspect you can do pretty good with that. You're at this level. I'm sure you're good students. You've learned how to study. You've learned how to, study efficiently. And memorization is probably something you're pretty good at. But again, just because you got 100, let's say you got 100, you got an A on all the anatomy, well, that doesn't necessarily mean you know how the car starts, how it works, right? You may not know what the air inlet manifold is for, right? Or you may not know what the carbon canister vacuum switch is for, right? So that's sort of the idea of physiology. So this semester, yes, we got to learn the name, but we got to learn what it does. And in 2401, last semester, it's an anatomy physiology course, and it's based more in the anatomical realm. So you memorize a bunch of tissues, you memorize a bunch of bones, you memorize a bunch of muscles, maybe some nerves. Anatomy was more of the emphasis. In 2402, it's kind of flipped around. So 2402 should be called physiology and anatomy. There's a lot more physiology to deal with this semester than last semester. So yes, we got to learn the anatomy, and most of you can do well with that, but you got to work hard to understand the physiology, right? All the parts, functions, how they work, what they do. Right? So you're going to get practice with that as we go along through the semester. So for today, right, your first assignment, right? So your first assignment today is going to be to go back last semester, whether it was last week in summer 1 or in the spring semester, or maybe it's been a while, right? But I want you to go back and look at what you learned in 2401, because we're going to need that information to bring in and integrate into 2402. So what I have here are the systems that you should go back and refresh your memory with, right? So the idea of histology and all the different types of tissues that are going to make up the organs that we're going to cover this semester. The idea of the nervous system, a lot of detail that was very rich in physiology as well. All the action potential generation, skeletal muscle, or I should say skeletal system and muscular systems, which are very closely integrated together. A lot of names, a lot of anatomy, but also again, what does they do? How do they work together? And how then would they integrate with the other topics here? Part of our nervous system, again, the special senses being, the sight, auditory, olfactory, sensory, that kind of stuff. So all parts of the nervous system, but having integration with other systems as well. And then we get into our endocrine system, which I wish more 2401 instructors would hit that system harder. And a lot of instructors push it to the end. And if you took this course in the spring semester with all the COVID mess, you may be very, very weak actually on the endocrine system. So go back and look at your notes, go back and look at the book, and try to just get your level, your knowledge up to par with the endocrine system. So on top of 2401 stuff, let's not forget basic biology, 1306 material. So knowledge on genetics, the chemistry, the physics, psychology, all of these are sort of fundamental core courses, but they have you take these courses for a reason. It's not just, I took the course, got my A, whatever. No, you got to try to integrate all of these together to get that full picture, that real complex knowledge of basically what the human body is, how it works. Right? So knowledge integration. So for your first assignment, right? So this one, I'll give you the specific details on Blackboard, but your first assignment is going to be for a lab grade. So it will be a 10-point lab grade. And basically, I want to see if you remember important topics of 2401. And this is not all comprehensive, all inclusive. This is just very, very minimal. I hope you remember a lot more than this. Yeah. But number one, contrast the terms anatomy and physiology. 2, elaborate on the phrase form fits function. 3, describe the anatomical and physiological aspects of a tissue, right? And expand upon your answer with specific details of connective tissue. 4, explain what an action potential is and how it is generated. Right? Now, when I ask you to answer these questions, I'm not asking you, oh, go Google, copy and paste and really, show me that, wow, you remember every single little detail. Right? That's not the point of this. I really want you to be honest with yourself. I'm not going to grade this harshly. It's either you turn it in or you don't turn it in, yeah? But I want you to kind of see where your weaknesses lie, right? Maybe you remember this, but forgot this one. Maybe you remember this one, but forgot this one. So what do you know up to this point? What knowledge do you bring with you into 2402? There's not a specific length, a specific word count that you have to give me. Just, what does your brain remember? How fresh is it up in there? I know it's there. I know you covered this, but how much of that do you remember? It'd be like, I remember back in geometry class, I remember I learned how to solve for the cosine of a triangle, right? Well, I don't know how to do that right now, right? I learned it once, but I don't remember how to solve for the cosine or the tangent of this or the, it's just things that we learn for the test. And then once the test is done, a lot of that is forgotten. So I don't want that to happen. I want you to retain this information long-term. I think your careers are going to be based on this, so it just makes logical sense. Keep this material long-term with you, right? So it's critical. We continue on, number 5, the difference between then the sympathetic and parasympathetic divisions of the autonomic nervous system. 6, the 3 types of muscle tissue. So 3 types of tissue, what are their similarities? What are their differences? Contrast, so what are the differences between these types as far as which are voluntary, maybe some of the structural differences. It's going to be very critical when we get into the heart section in this course. And again, a generic, very generalized question, the role of the endocrine system. Give me the generic answer and then maybe give me some specifics. See what kind of specific hormones that you do remember and what role they play in physiology. So with that should kind of keep you basically thinking about biology, thinking about anatomy, physiology. And again, that's all I'm going to post for now for today. And so again, two assignments. 1, review your 2401 knowledge, and 2, give me some introductory information that that you'd like to share with me and with the group. Yeah. And with that, I'll call it a day. Get all the materials that you need. Get logged on to Pearson, and we'll start with a full discussion tomorrow. Right, full lecture tomorrow, and you'll have a good rest of your first day.